Have you ever walked into one of those stunning minimalist homes and immediately thought, wow, that looks beautiful? But then after half an hour, something just felt off and you couldn't really explain it. Because the room looked expensive, it looked calm, it looked like straight out of Pinterest board, and yet somehow you didn't feel relaxed. And if you have ever experienced it, I'm telling you, you are not imagining it. Because your nervous system experiences a room very differently from what your eyes do. And today I'm going to show you exactly why and how to fix it. Hi everyone, my name is Maria. I'm an architect specializing in neurodesign, which basically means that I help people to design their homes which don't just look beautiful but also support their nervous system. And today we're talking about minimalism. Not because minimalism is bad, but because somehow along the way we have started confusing minimal with comfort, and those two aren't always the same thing. And here's what we're going to do today. We're going to take this beautiful minimalist living room. Then I will break down exactly what your brain is reacting to. And then I will redesign it, but still keep this minimalist, clean aesthetic. Because you don't really need more stuff. You just need a space your nervous system enjoys being in. Alright, so here's me with my huge laptop here. Let's check the room. So first of all, this room is beautiful. Seriously. If I saw this online, I would save it too. Because everything feels intentional, the materials are beautiful as well, the palette is cohesive, nothing feels messy, and it's exactly the kind of home people aspire to. But here is the interesting part. If I asked you to spend an entire rainy Sunday in this room, having a coffee, reading a book, doing absolutely nothing, I am not convinced that you would feel as comfortable as you might think. And that's where neurodesign gets really interesting, because your body notices things long before your conscious mind does. And let's look at what it's picking up. So the first thing I notice is my eyes keep moving and they're almost looking for something to settle, which sounds completely backwards, right? Because the room is almost kind of empty, and shouldn't empty automatically feel relaxing? And I must tell you that not necessarily. Our brains actually evolve in places full of gentle variation. Think about walking through a forest. There are different textures, right? Different shades of green, light moving through the leaves, and nothing is perfectly uniform. And somehow it still feels calming. And this room is completely the opposite. Everything is smooth, everything is flat, everything is very controlled. And there is very little texture, very little depth, and very little visual hierarchy. So instead of your eyes naturally settling into the space, they quietly keep searching. It's not stressful enough that you consciously notice it, but it's enough that the room can feel strangely unfinished. And now here's something that once you see it, you cannot unsee it. Look around the room. A straight sofa, a rectangular table somewhere, very weird shape rug, and actually also very small, some linear shelving, and even lighting follows perfectly like straight lines. And now, don't get me wrong, I'm an architect, I love clean lines, I love straight lines, but when absolutely everything is angular, your brain stays just a little more alert. Humans naturally pay more attention to sharp than soft. It's an old survival instinct. And sharp edges used to mean pay attention, stay careful, danger is somewhere close by. Of course, we know that coffee table isn't dangerous, but your visual system still responds differently to hard angles than it does to curves. That's why cafes and boutique hotels and cozy homes always mix in soft shapes, right? Like this small round coffee tables or small round chairs, organic forms. So they give your eyes somewhere to relax, and this room doesn't really have that balance. Okay, so now let's move to the lighting, because I see this everywhere. Those black ceiling tracks have become the symbol of modern luxury somehow. And visually, okay, they look fine. I mean, not great, but they look good. But your nervous system isn't judging whether they're trendy. It's responding to what they're doing. And notice how the light creates really bright spots and really dark shadows. Your eyes keep jumping between those areas. And that's exactly what task lighting is supposed to do. It helps focus. It helps you alert. And which is great if you are, for example, cooking dinner, right? Or cleaning the house. But it's not so great if you're trying to unwind in the end of the day. And then there is something else. All of those long parallel lines running across the ceiling, they're constantly pulling your attention upward instead of letting your eyes naturally settle into the room. It's subtle, but your brain is processing every single one of those visual cues. Let's move to the color. And now, before anyone says, so beige is bad? No, not at all. I actually love warm, neutral tones. But the problem is when beige becomes the entire experience. Because if you think about nature, it's never just one color, right? Even a sandy beach has little variations, like some shadows, maybe some plants somewhere, some stones, the movement, and our brains again evolve surrounded by that richness. So when we remove almost all of it, a room can start feeling a little emotionally flat. And not because it's ugly, and not because it's badly designed. It just stops feeling alive. And that's the part I think so many minimalist interiors accidentally miss. They're beautiful to look at, but they don't always give your nervous system enough to connect with. So how do we fix that without filling the room with stuff? Let me show you. Now we're moving to the fun part, right? So let's just try to fix it. And here is the good news. I don't actually think that this room needs a complete makeover. And I think that's really important to say, because every time I talk about neurodesign, people assume I'm about to tell them to throw everything away and redesign it completely, paint the walls, also change the floors and so on. Definitely not. And I actually like this room base. It just feels that it's missing a few things that our brain naturally look for, something small. And if this were my project, here is exactly what I would change. So the first thing, I would add large plant. Honestly, before I changed everything else. I know that you are now rolling up your eyes like, again, the plant. But it might actually help, and not because interior designers have some weird obsession with plants, but I would actually add one because it's one of the easiest way to make a room feel more alive. Think about it. Right now, almost everything in this room is man-made. It's perfectly straight, perfectly still, perfectly controlled, and a plant completely changes it. Suddenly, you've got organic shapes, natural variation, leaves that catch the light differently throughout the day. And even if you don't consciously notice it, your brain does. Believe me, nature is familiar to you. It's something we have evolved around for thousands and thousands of years. So adding even one living element instantly makes the room feel softer and more welcoming. And the next thing I would do is make this room feel a little bit more touchable. Does that make sense? Right now, if you just look around, almost everything feels visually hard and flat and sleek. The sofa looks structured, the table is hard, the floor is hard. Like even this weird rock also feels like flat and too small also. So I would layer in textures. Maybe the first thing I would also choose a thicker rock, bigger of course, maybe some throw, a couple of cushions with different fabrics. Nothing much, but just look that it did change rooms so much. And here's something people don't often think about. Your brain is constantly predicting what a space would feel like to touch, even if you are not touching anything. So when everything looks soft, the whole room starts to feel softer as well. It's one of those little design tricks that has a surprisingly big impact. And now, if you only copied one thing from this video, I would probably want it to be this. I would rethink the lighting completely, because lighting changes everything. I would still keep the ceiling light actually, they're not bad, okay? They're practical, they're great when you're cleaning or cooking, for example, or looking for that TV remote. But they wouldn't be my main source of light in the evening. Instead, I would add a floor lamp over here and maybe a little lamp over there also. But this is questionable. And I would make sure that the light is warm and indirect. The goal isn't to flood the room with light, it's actually the opposite. You want little pools of lights, the kind that gently bounce around the room instead of shining directly into your eyes. And think about your favorite cafe or restaurant or the hotel. And they're almost never brightly lit. They create atmosphere, right? And that's exactly what helps our nervous system start to relax. And finally, a little more life. The last thing I'll change is the color palette, and don't worry, as I said, that I'm not about to paint a wall bright orange or bright yellow. I would actually keep the neutral base. And that's part of what makes this room beautiful. But I would just give it a little more depth. Maybe some wormwood, or some muted green in the cushions, a clay colored vase maybe, or the painting. Things that it reminds your brain of the outdoors without screaming, "Look at me." And as you might notice that this room is still minimalist, right? It's just not monochromatic anymore. And that tiny bit of variation makes a huge, huge difference. Alright, so now take a look at this room again. It's still clean, it's still elegant, and still minimalist. If anything, I would argue it looks even better. But the biggest difference isn't what you see, it's what you feel. And now your eyes have somewhere to rest. The textures invite you in, the lighting feels softer, the room has a little more warmth, a little more life. And suddenly it becomes somewhere you actually want to spend some time. And I think that's what fascinates me the most about neurodesign. Because these two rooms can look almost identical in a photo, but it's so different to live in. Because your brain isn't judging whether a space is trendy, right? It's constantly asking questions like, can I relax here? Can I feel safe here? Do I want to stay here? And the best interiors don't just impress us for 5 seconds. They make us feel good every single day. In the morning, during the day, during the evening, and even at night. So maybe the goal isn't to create the minimalist home. Maybe it's to create the home that your nervous system has been looking for all along. And if you have enjoyed this type of breakdown, let me know in the comments which room you would like me to analyze next. Maybe it's going to be even your room. And if you want to learn more about neurodesign and how spaces affect your brain, I would really love to have you here. So stay for the next one.